that statistic that the Steve was mentioning earlier, that 85% of all information can be tied to location. It becomes that universal index and way of connecting and purifying the data and then making it useful. Location economics takes that to a whole new level, because a lot of the location intelligence work, we tended to work with our own stuff. Kept our data close, we analyzed it heavily, but we didn't share it that much. And so with location economics, it brings in the broader space. It brings in all of these sensor networks and mobile information. It brings in the other people, our partners, our customers, and getting information from them and giving them information back. So it becomes a real ecosystem that allows all of this to happen.
I wonder, we're all concerned about being able to use data for which there's prior consent and all that sort of thing. Maybe we should be thinking too about how can we get consent to do things that the consumer would like us to do, and maybe work on expanding the consent that we do have. I was just thinking, for example, in terms of fraud issues, if you had to explain to a consumer, say, look, we'd like to pair up your credit cards with your cell phone from the point of view of if your credit card is being used in Ottawa, but your cell phone indicates that you're in Toronto, right, there might be an issue, something like that. That's when
TD calls you and said, what are you doing?
That's right. Yeah. So you're not doing it with just one company, like it's not just TD saying it, but have some sort of syndicated product where you can associate that cell phone with an individual who lives in this particular place, along with these particular credit cards where they tend to use it and behavior and that sort of thing.
I think this is one of the advantages of an ecosystem, is you can start to share this information, and you don't have to share it with everybody. You share it with who makes sense. And one of the ways that we help that with maintaining the privacy and so on is by separating out a lot of the information. So location is this great index and key. And so by tagging it, giving unique IDs to all of the locations, it then becomes a proxy for all of the other information about that location.
One of the things that we see, from consumer interaction out there in the world today, and especially at retail level, is a lot of businesses right now, a lot of retail businesses, restaurant chains, are embracing location technology to engage consumers, to try to drive traffic in. And they're building their own geofences, and they're building their own polygon models. And potentially that creates a problem, because if everybody goes and builds their own geofencing and polygon models out there, then what you have, if consumers start opting into these services to receive push notifications as they cross into a geofence and things like that, you end up with a world where you have overlapping polygons and geofences and potentially spam hitting the consumer. So it just further, that's a consumer illustration, but it further illustrates the need for some kind of standardization around, what these micro nano neighborhoods look like.
You talked a bit about your proprietary system of having these micro regions, you call them. So what would be the benefit of these versus what we might be using today in terms of census data units or other things? I'm not quite sure I understand what that benefit is.
Well, a very common method used today is postal geography. But it was designed for delivering mail. It wasn't designed for analyzing fraud. It wasn't designed for looking at economic potential or propensity to buy. What would be better is something that observes the key characteristics that you're after. And I would submit that those are people, property, economic activity, and it is driven by things like density of these factors and so on. There will be others, and that's why we're trying to get more input from you on what they would be.
At the end of the day, when we look at the privacy issue around location sharing in general, it nets out to a simple equation of, consumers will say, here's my information, as long as there's an exchange of value, right? And that value has to be personally relevant to them. And if you can deliver that, then it becomes interesting.